Look at him. The new twig, Torres growled, loud enough for the entire cafeteria to hear. The clatter of trays dulled. Heads turned, just enough to watch without being caught watching. Everyone knew that tone. Torres wasn't talking. He was hunting. "Yo, fresh meat," he shouted across the room. "Why you sitting alone? Scared? Or just stupid?" The inmates around him laughed the kind of laugh that meant don't make eye contact, or you're next. But the skinny new guy at the end of the table didn't lift his head, didn't blink, didn't move. He sat still, hands folded, staring at cold mashed potatoes like he was trying to meditate his way out of hell. Torres slammed his tray down, so hard the metal rang like a warning siren. "I'm talking to you, boy." He leaned closer. "You deaf? Or you just too dumb to understand who runs this place?" Nothing. Not a flinch. Not a twitch. Just silence. A silence bold enough to insult a man like Torres. Torres' lips twisted. He loved breaking new inmates, especially the quiet ones. Quiet meant weak. Weak meant easy fun. "You see those cameras?" Torres said, pointing at the rusted domes on the ceiling. "They don't catch everything. Which means I could do anything I want to you, and nobody's going to say a damn word." A few inmates swallowed hard. They'd seen Torres prove that claim more than once. Slowly, like a door creaking open, the new guy lifted his eyes. Not scared, not shaking, not pleading. Just calm, cold, calculating. The kind of cold that made 3 inmates' brows pinch in confusion, their instincts whispering, "Something's off about this one." Torres scoffed, irritated by the unexpected stare. "What? You gonna cry? Or you gonna speak before I break you in half?" The new guy's voice was low, controlled. "You've already made your first mistake." The cafeteria froze. A needle could have fallen and echoed. Torres burst out laughing. "Oh yeah? And what mistake is that?" The new inmate answered calmly. "You think I'm the one who should be afraid." Torres' grin vanished. And then the first punch landed. Torres' fist slammed into the new inmate's ribs with a crack that made a few men wince. The force lifted him off the bench and slammed him onto the ground. A guard on the upper railing looked down, sighed, and kept walking. Business as usual. The cafeteria erupted into scattered murmurs, the kind people used when they knew violence was coming and didn't want to get caught in it. The new guy, Jaden Cross, lay on the floor, one hand gripping the cold tile, the other wrapped around his ribs. He didn't scream, didn't beg, didn't scramble away. He just breathed, slowly, deeply, as if calibrating his pain rather than reacting to it. Torres stepped over him, towering like a lion over a fallen gazelle. "Name?" he demanded. Jaden dragged in a breath and murmured, "Jaden." "Jaden," Torres repeated mockingly. "Cute. You know the rules, Jaden." Silence. Torres grabbed Jaden's collar and hauled him halfway to his feet, his breath hot and sour as it blasted across Jaden's face. "In here, you eat when I say you eat. You sit where I say you sit. You breathe, because I let you. You understand me?" Jaden's eyes flicked to Torres' cheekbone, then to his shoulder, then to his wrist. Precise, quiet, automatic, the way a surgeon sees arteries, the way a killer sees openings. Then it was gone, buried again. He nodded. "Yeah, I understand." "You don't look like you do," Torres growled. He slammed Jaden back down hard, harder than the guards like people seeing. The metal bench rattled. "Knock it off, Torres." A guard finally barked without moving a muscle. "You want solitary again?" Torres snorted, let go, and raised his hands innocently. "We're just getting acquainted," he said, then slapped Jaden lightly on the cheek. Not enough to bruise, but enough to disrespect. "You and me are going to be real close, Jaden. I like to break in the new ones." Laughter followed him as he strutted back to his table. But few inmates didn't laugh. A few exchanged glances. Not because Jaden looked weak, but because the quiet ones, the truly quiet ones, were rarely the ones to fear, unless they were quiet for a reason. Later that night, in his dim cell, Jaden pressed a hand to his bruised ribs. Pain pulsed through him, hot and heavy, but his breathing stayed even. He wasn't here for Torres. He wasn't here for prison politics. He was here for one man, a man who hid inside these walls thinking he was safe. Victor Hale, the man who murdered his sister. The man who built an empire on stolen girls. The man Jaden intended to kill with his bare hands. Torres was just noise, a distraction, a man too stupid to realize he'd swung at a volcano, thinking it was a pebble. Jaden closed his eyes. Don't start yet, he told himself. Stay patient. Wait. Predators didn't pounce at the first opportunity. They waited for the perfect one. And Torres? Torres had just volunteered to give him all the cover he needed. Because the biggest mistake a bully can make is assuming the quiet man is prey. Sometimes the quiet man is death, waiting for an excuse to stand up. The next morning, the entire cell block smelled like bleach and sweat, the scent of a place that cleaned the floors but never the violence soaked into them. Jaden sat on the edge of his bunk, lacing his boots with slow, deliberate movements. Every inch of his ribs throbbed from Torres' punch, but pain was just information, and he'd trained all his life to operate with far worse. His cellmate, a jittery guy named Benton, kept glancing at him like he was sitting next to a ticking bomb. "You okay, man?" Benton whispered. "You took a beating yesterday." "I noticed," Jaden said flatly. That was Torres." Benton's voice shook. "He doesn't stop. If he picks you, he really picks you. You gotta watch yourself." Jaden tied a final knot and stood. "I am." Benton swallowed. Something in Jaden's tone didn't match someone who was afraid of anything. Not Torres, not anyone. The walk to the yard. When the cell doors rolled open, the hallway erupted in the slow shuffle of bodies heading toward the yard. A low rumble of jokes, curses, threats, and tired breathing filled the air. Jaden walked with the crowd, head down, hands in pockets. Anyone watching would think he was trying to disappear. He wasn't. He was watching, mapping, guards' rotations, blind spots, Torres' usual patrol routes, inmate groups who stuck together, who avoided each other, who controlled contraband, who was nervous around who. Every step was information. Every glance was data. Every smell, every shift, every angle. Jaden absorbed it without effort. The prison yard opened like a slab of concrete under a pale winter sun. Some men worked out. Some gambled. Some stared at the fences like they could climb freedom with their eyes. And then there was Torres, surrounded by his crew, laughing loudly, shoulders swollen with the confidence of a man who had never lost a fight inside these walls. The moment he saw Jaden, his grin returned. "Hey, Twig," Torres shouted. The entire yard turned. "You ready for round two?" Jaden kept walking, ignoring him completely. Torres' smile evaporated. To him, disrespect was worse than defiance. "Yo!" Torres marched forward. His guys followed. "You think you get to ignore me now?" Jaden stopped walking. Not because he was scared, because he wanted Torres close enough. Torres shoved him in the chest. Hard. Jaden stumbled a step back, intentionally, the way prey would. "Look at you," Torres laughed. "Still quiet, huh? I thought after yesterday you'd at least learn how to—" Jaden cut in quietly. "You talk too much." Torres froze. "What did you say?" Jaden's eyes lifted, steady and cold. "You talk too much." The yard went completely silent. One inmate muttered, "Ah, hell, he's dead." Torres smiled slowly, not amused, but insulted. "You really don't get how this place works, do you?" he said. "I run things. Not you. Not the guards. Not anyone. Me." Jaden didn't blink. "You're loud," he repeated. "Loud people die first." Torres' nostrils flared. His fist clenched. Then something unexpected. A voice called from the weight benches. "Torres, leave him. You'll get segged again." It was Mac, the old inmate with gray stubble and calm eyes. Torres spat in the dirt. "Shut it, old man." Mac didn't move, didn't blink. He just said, "He's not one of your toys." Torres laughed. "Oh, he's mine. I already broke him." "No," Mac said quietly. "You didn't." Torres frowned. For the first time, uncertainty flickered in his eyes. Mac's gaze stayed on Jaden. Not hostile, not scared. Knowing. Walk away, Torres, Mac warned. Just walk away. Torres barked a laugh. Or what? You gonna stop me? Mac didn't look at Torres. He kept staring at Jaden. No, Mac said. He is. Torres turned just in time to see Jaden looking at him like a man examining a corpse. A corpse that didn't know it was dead yet. For the first time, Torres stepped back. Just half a step, but a step nonetheless. And inmates noticed. All of them noticed. Torres recovered quickly, forcing a smirk. This ain't over, he growled. Not by a long shot. He signaled his crew and walked off, but the swagger was gone. His footsteps, just barely, betrayed hesitation. Whispers rose like smoke behind him. What's up with the new guy? You see how he looked at Torres? Man, didn't even flinch. Who I is he? Jaden turned, heading to the far corner of the yard. Not running, not hiding, just moving. Max stood from the bench and followed at a slow pace until he was close enough to speak without being heard. He sat beside Jaden on the cold concrete and said without looking at him, Everyone mistakes your silence for fear. Jaden didn't respond. Mac continued, But I've seen fear. You don't have any. Still silence. Mac finally turned toward him. You're not here to survive, are you? Jaden's jaw tightened. Just once. Barely visible. But that was enough. Mac nodded slowly. You're here for someone. Jaden looked straight ahead. Stay out of it, he said softly. Mac grinned faintly, a sad kind of smile. I wish I could. Then he leaned closer. Because if you're who I think you are, the entire prison is about to become a battlefield. Jaden didn't deny it, didn't confirm it. He just said one sentence, the first honest warning he'd given since walking through the gates. No matter what happens next, don't stand near Torres. Mac blinked. Why? Jaden's eyes sharpened, deadly, focused, almost inhuman. Because soon, Torres is going to give me a reason. Torres spent the entire afternoon pacing his cell, like a caged animal who'd been laughed at. No one ignored Torres. No one made him step back. No one talked to him like he wasn't the apex predator of Blackridge Penitentiary. Yet the new guy, the skinny, quiet nobody, had done all three without even raising his voice. By evening chow time, Torres wasn't just angry. He was obsessed. Tonight, he growled to his crew, we're going to remind him who owns this place. Rico, his right-hand man, nodded eagerly. You want backups? Torres flexed his bruised knuckles. No backups. I'm doing this myself. That was the second mistake he made that day. The setup, the hallway outside the showers was the closest thing the prison had to a graveyard. Steel echoes, dim lights, and a long reputation for violence the guards pretended not to see. Perfect for Torres. He leaned against the wall, cracking his neck, breathing heavy, waiting. The plan was simple. Jaden would finish dinner. Jaden would head to showers. Torres would be waiting. One punch behind the cameras. 2 stomps. And the problem would vanish. Simple. Clean. Stupid. Because Torres didn't realize that while he was planning a trap, he was the one being watched. In the cafeteria, Jaden sat alone again. But this time, inmates didn't laugh. They kept distance. Kept quiet. Kept glancing at him like he was a landmine. They weren't sure it was armed, but suspected very much was. Max sat a few tables away, watching the way the room shifted around Jaden. No jokes, no intimidation, no one bold enough to even bump his shoulder when they passed. Fear spreads fast in a cage. Jaden ate slowly in silence, letting time pass like a man waiting for a bus. Not for a beating. He finished his food, stood, and walked toward the showers. Toward Torres. Toward the trap. Max shook his head. Poor idiot, he muttered. And he didn't mean Jaden. The showers. The hallway buzzed with flickering yellow lights, humming like angry insects. Steam curled from the open door of the showers. Torres stood planted in the middle of the corridor, arms crossed, grinning wide. There he is. Torres boomed. My favorite twig. Jaden stopped walking and lifted his eyes. Torres felt something in his stomach tighten at the sight. Something you refuse to name is fear. You know why we're here, right? Torres asked, stepping closer. Because you embarrass me in front of everyone. Jaden said nothing. You think you're tough? Torres sneered. You think you're dangerous? Silence. And that silence poked at Torres harder than any insult. He shoved Jaden hard toward the wall. Jaden staggered, just slightly. Talk now, Torres snarled. Come on, say something. Jaden looked up. Calm, cool, slow. You think you set a trap for me, he said quietly. Torres frowned. What? Jaden tilted his head. You think I didn't know you'd be waiting here? You think I didn't see you leave the cafeteria early? He took a slow step toward Torres. You think I didn't see your crew whispering? Another step. You think I don't understand how bullies operate? Another step. Torres stumbled back one pace. What you saying? He snapped. I'm saying, Jaden said softly, that you didn't set a trap. His voice dropped to a cold whisper. You walked into mine. Torres swung. A big, brutal punch meant to take Jaden's head off. But Jaden wasn't there. He slipped under it. Quick and smooth. Too fast for a man his size. Too clean for anyone who'd learned to fight in prison. Torres didn't even have time to process before. Crack. Jaden's elbow hammered into Torres' sternum. The big man gasped, choking on breath. He swung again wildly. Thud. Jaden slammed a palm strike into Torres' inner elbow, bending his arm backward with a sickening pop. Torres screamed. Another swing. Slam. Jaden's shoulder crashed into Torres' jaw. The bully hit the wall. Hard. His legs buckled. His eyes fluttered. Jaden leaned forward, voice soft but deadly clear. You should have stayed away. Torres swung the last punch he had left, sloppy, desperate, and Jaden sidestepped like he was stepping around a puddle. Then Jaden tripped him. Not violently. Just expertly. Torres hit the concrete on his back, choking, eyes spinning. Jaden crouched beside him, close enough that Torres felt Jaden's breath on his cheek, close enough to feel the truth, that this man wasn't prey. He was a weapon. You attacked me, Jaden said quietly, but I'm not the one you should fear. Torres tried to speak. No sound came out. Jaden straightened and walked away, calm, collected, nothing like a man who had just dismantled the strongest inmate in the block. Before turning the corner, he paused and added, This is your last warning. Stay away from me if you want to keep breathing. Torres watched him leave. For the first time since he entered prison, the bully felt something he had never felt before. Something cold, sharp, heavy, fear. As Jaden disappeared into the steam of the showers, Mac emerged from around the corner. He stared down at Torres, barely conscious on the floor. Then Mac whispered the truth Torres didn't want to hear. You just fought a ghost, boy. Torres didn't show his face in the yard the next morning. Not because he didn't want to, because he couldn't. Word spread fast in prison. Faster than contraband. Faster than threats. The entire block had heard about what happened near the showers. Torres swung. The new guy moved. Torres fell. That was the whole story. And that was enough. By breakfast, men were whispering. Torres got dropped. By the new kid? Nah, not possible. I saw Torres limp into medbay with ice on his jaw. Then who the hell I asked that guy? Jaden ignored all of it. He sat alone again, hands wrapped around a warm mug of instant coffee, eyes down, breathing slow, pretending, always pretending, like he was just another inmate forced into a place he didn't belong. But today was different. Today, he finally saw him. The arrival of Victor Hale. The cafeteria doors opened, and silence rippled like a cold wind. 2 guards walked in. Behind them, hands cupped but head held high, came a man in his late 40s, sharp suit beneath the orange jumpsuit, jaw clean-shaven, hair slicked back, posture immaculate. Victor Hale, the puppet master of a trafficking network, so large it spanned 4 states. A man who killed without lifting a finger. A man who owned judges, lawyers, businessmen, gangsters. A man who made pain profitable. He walked like the prison belonged to him. So'd argue it did. Men stepped aside without being asked. Others lowered their heads out of instinct. Even guards stood straighter when he passed. Power didn't need noise. It walked quietly. Jaden didn't look up. Not yet, but he felt Victor's presence sweep the room, calculating, predatory, cruel. Victor paused near the middle of the cafeteria, as if sensing someone watching him, because someone was. The first look, Jaden finally lifted his eyes. For the briefest moment, their gazes collided across the room. Victor narrowed his eyes, only for a second, then his expression smoothed into indifference. But that single flicker told Jaden exactly what he needed to know. Victor Hale felt it. He felt hunted. Good. He should. The warning from Mac. Mac slid onto the bench across from Jaden without asking permission. He didn't speak for a moment. He just watched Victor take his seat with his entourage. 5 men who acted more like soldiers and inmates. Then Mac leaned forward, voice low. "That man," Mac said, nodding toward Victor, "is the most dangerous person in this prison." Jaden didn't react. "So, is a rattlesnake," he murmured, "if you step on its tail." Mac frowned. "You already stepped on Torres' throat. Don't go stepping on Victor's, too." Jaden stirred his coffee. "I won't." Mac looked relieved, until Jaden added, "I'm here to take his head." Mac froze. "What?" Jaden didn't blink. "I'm here to kill Victor Hale." The old inmate closed his eyes for a moment, whispering a curse under his breath. "You're insane. Victor's protected. His men watch him 24/7. The guards are bought. Hell, the warden is on his payroll." Jaden finished calmly. Mac's eyes widened. "How do you know that?" Jaden finally looked up, and his voice turned to ice. "Because I've been watching them since the moment I walked in." He wasn't bragging. He wasn't threatening. He was stating a fact. Why Jaden was here. Mac leaned closer, lowering his voice even more. "You don't kill a man like Victor inside a prison." "You do," Jaden said, "if he put your sister in the ground." Mac's breath hitched. Jaden didn't look emotional, not even angry, just hollow, focused, deadly. "It wasn't enough that he killed her," Jaden said quietly. "He made her disappear, like she was nothing." Mac exhaled slowly, shaking his head. "You went through all this just to get at him?" Jaden's eyes hardened. "I go through hell." Victor's first move. Across the room, Victor lifted his fork, then motioned subtly to one of his men. The man nodded and stood. He began walking toward Jaden's table. Calm, casual, like he was just stretching his legs. Jaden watched him without moving. Mac whispered, panicked, "Don't do anything stupid. Not here. Not in front of everyone." Jaden didn't answer. The man stopped in front of Jaden's table, stared down at him, cold, confident. He placed a folded piece of paper on the table. A message. He tapped it twice. A warning. Then walked away without another word. Jaden waited until the man sat back beside Victor. Then he opened the note. It had 3 words written in neat, expensive handwriting. "I know you." The prison begins to shift. Jaden folded the note, tucked it into his sleeve. Max swallowed hard. "That means he recognizes you," he whispered. "He knows who you are, or what you are." Jaden didn't deny it. He didn't have to. Victor Hale wasn't afraid of much, but he feared one rumor, one legend, one ghost. The killer who dismantled 3 crime rings in a year. The assassin who left no evidence behind. The man who vanished into thin air after avenging his family. The man known only as the Ghost. And now Victor Hale was starting to suspect that Ghost might be sitting across the cafeteria, drinking prison coffee, waiting. The part that changed everything. Just as Jaden stood to return his tray, a hand clamped onto his shoulder. A guard. Warden Briggs' personal dog. "Cross," the guard barked. "Warden wants to speak with you." Jaden tilted his head. Mac muttered, "Oh, hell." Everyone in the room froze again. Because if Victor Hale controlled the warden, and the warden wanted to see Jaden, then Victor had already made his first move, against the wrong man. The walk to the warden's office was long, narrow, and suffocating, the kind of hallway built to make men feel smaller with every step. Jaden didn't feel smaller. He felt ready. The guard escorting him, Officer Kellen, kept glancing at him like Jaden might grow fangs and rip his throat out at any moment. "Don't try anything," Kellen muttered. "Warden Briggs ain't someone you want to piss off." Jaden didn't reply. He had no intention of trying something. Not yet. Not until Victor Hale made his next mistake. The office. Warden Briggs' office looked nothing like the rest of the prison. Mahogany desk, soft lamps, thick carpet, a liquor cabinet worth more than most inmates' lives. This wasn't a prison office. It was a throne room. Briggs himself sat behind the desk, tall, built like an aging linebacker, hair combed with military precision, jaw tight enough to crack stone. He didn't smile when Jaden entered, didn't offer a seat, didn't speak for several seconds. He just stared, sizing Jaden up, measuring him, calculating the cost of keeping him alive. Finally, the warden spoke. "You've been here, what, 2 days? And already you're causing problems." Jaden stood silently. Briggs leaned back. "You think you're tough? Huh?" Silence. "You think you're some kind of ghost? I heard what happened with Torres." Still silence. Briggs' eyes narrowed. "You put my best behavioral project in the damn infirmary. That makes me look bad." Jaden's voice was calm. "He attacked me." Briggs scoffed. "They all say that." The warden stood, walked around the desk, and leaned close. "But you, Cross, you're different. You don't flinch. You don't stutter. You don't look scared." His voice dropped into something sharp and cold. "And that makes me wonder who the hell you really are." Jaden didn't blink. "Just another inmate." Briggs smirked. "Victor Hale says otherwise." There it was. The real reason for this meeting. Jaden kept his face perfectly empty. Briggs circled him slowly. "You know Victor has respect in here, right? Influence. Friends. Money. He runs things. I let him because it keeps the place quiet." He tapped Jaden's chest with one finger. "But someone like you? Someone I don't have a file on, someone with military reflexes, scars that don't match your charges, and the eyes of a man who's already killed before? That's dangerous." Jaden answered evenly. "Why am I here, Warden?" Briggs' expression hardened. "Because Victor Hale asked me a question." He lowered his voice. "He wants to know if the rumors are true." Jaden tilted his head slightly. "What rumors?" Briggs smirked. "That you're not Jaden Cross at all. That your identity is fake. That you're a contract killer who vanished years ago. That the reason you're here has nothing to do with your charges. That you came for him." Jaden said nothing, not even a twitch. Briggs took that silence as confirmation. He stepped back, nodding to himself. "That's what I thought." The threat. Briggs walked to the liquor cabinet, poured himself a glass, took a slow sip, and turned around. "You listen to me, Cross." His voice was flat steel. "I don't care what your past is. I don't care if you broke Torres' ribs. I don't even care if you're some phantom killer the feds couldn't catch." He put the glass down. "What I do care about is stability. Peace. Order." He jabbed a finger toward the door. "And Victor Hale keeps this place in line. Men follow him. Men obey him. That makes my life easier." Jaden watched him quietly. "So, whatever vendetta you brought into my prison," Briggs continued, "you're gonna drop it." Again, Jaden said nothing. Briggs stepped forward until he was inches from Jaden's face. "You touch Victor, even once, I'll have you buried in solitary so deep you'll forget the sun exists." Jaden finally spoke. His voice was soft, almost polite. "Are you finished?" Briggs blinked. "What?" Jaden's eyes lifted, still calm, still controlled. "I asked if you were finished." Briggs' jaw tensed. "No, Cross, I'm not." Then the phone rang. The guard at the door stiffened. "Sir, it's Hale." Briggs' face twitched. "Of course it is." He snatched the phone. "Hale, I'm handling it." He froze. Jaden watched the warden's face darken, then pale, then twist with irritation. When Briggs hung up, he slammed the receiver down. He pointed at Jaden. "Victor Hale wants to speak to you personally." The room went still. Jaden's heart didn't race. His breath didn't quicken. He simply adjusted the sleeve of his jumpsuit and said, "Then let's not keep him waiting." Briggs stared at him, confused, annoyed, and just a little bit afraid, because for the first time, the warden realized something he should have noticed the moment Jaden walked into his office. This wasn't a man scared of consequences. This was a man who came here with a purpose. And nothing, not Torres, not guards, not the warden, not even Victor Hale, was going to stop him. Warden Briggs escorted Jaden down the long corridor that led to the private visitation room, a place inmates joked about but rarely saw. Unlike the rest of the prison, this hallway was quiet, too quiet. No shouting, no footsteps, no echo of metal doors slamming, just soft lights and the faint hum of an air vent. Briggs walked stiffly, jaw grinding the entire way. He hated this, hated being the errand boy. But Hale had spoken, and when Victor Hale spoke, men listened, even the warden. Jaden walked calmly beside him. No tension, no fear, no hesitation. He looked like a man going to a meeting he'd scheduled himself. Briggs stopped at a heavy steel door, punched in the code, and opened it. He didn't enter. He didn't have the authority. "Good luck, Cross," Briggs muttered with sarcasm. "You'll need it." Jaden stepped inside. The door slammed shut behind him. The private room. The room was set up like a business negotiation, not a prison chamber. 2 chairs, a table, soft lighting, no cameras. Of course, Victor Hale would never allow cameras near him unless they were his. Victor sat at the table already, posture perfect, hands folded, eyes sharp as glass. His 5 loyal inmates stood behind him like statues. Jaden closed the door gently and approached. He didn't sit. Not yet. Victor smiled faintly. "You can sit, Mr. Cross." Jaden didn't move. Victor chuckled. "I suppose standing works too." He motioned for his men to step aside. They didn't leave, but they gave space. Victor leaned back and studied Jaden the way a chess master studies the opponent before the first move. "Let's speak plainly," Victor said. "I know you're not here for petty theft. I know you're not an average inmate. And I most certainly know you didn't stumble into my prison by accident." Jaden finally sat, calm, straight-backed, silent. Victor's smile widened. "You see, I have a good memory for faces." He tapped his temple. "And I remember yours, Jaden Cross, although that's not the name you went by back then, is it?" Still no reaction. Victor leaned forward, voice dropping to a low murmur. "People in my line of work hear rumors, whispers, shadows." He tilted his head. "A ghost that hunted in silence. A killer who left no footprints. A man who dismantled crime networks with surgical precision." He paused. "But you disappeared 2 years ago." Victor's smile turned cold. "And when a ghost disappears, it is only because he's choosing his next target." Jaden spoke softly. "You talk too much." A few of Victor's men tensed instantly, ready to pounce. But Victor raised one hand, and they froze. He laughed, a slow, dangerous laugh. Torres said the same thing. Jaden didn't respond. "Well," Victor shrugged, "I don't blame you. He is a loud beast. Useful, but loud." His eyes sharpened. "But you didn't break Torres because he annoyed you." He leaned forward. "You broke him to send me a message." Jaden's voice was ice. "Torres isn't a message. He's a warning." Victor's smile vanished. A flicker of irritation crossed his features. The first crack in his flawless confidence. "A warning?" Victor echoed. "About what?" Jaden's eyes finally locked onto Victor's. Cold, unblinking, deadly. "You know why I'm here." Victor's jaw tightened. Jaden continued. "You thought prison would protect you." Victor inhaled long and slow. "You thought hiding behind fences and guards and corrupt wardens would keep you safe." Victor's fingers twitched. "You thought being locked inside a concrete box meant no one could reach you." Victor's calm expression faltered. "And you thought," Jaden finished, "that my sister's death would go unanswered." Silence. A long, suffocating silence. Victor's face, usually polished and unreadable, shifted slightly. Not guilt, not fear, just annoyance. I've had many girls die, Victor said coldly. You'll have to be more specific. The room chilled. Jaden leaned forward slightly, just slightly, and every man in the room tensed. His voice was a whisper. Amara. Victor blinked. Just once. And that was all Jaden needed to confirm the truth. The recognition. The memory. The arrogance of a man who believed himself untouchable. Victor sat back slowly. So this is revenge. No, Jaden said. Victor frowned. No. Jaden's voice hardened. This is justice. The first threat. Victor snapped his fingers. Instantly, all 5 of his men stepped forward. Briggs would never know what happened. Guards wouldn't respond fast enough. No cameras. No witnesses. Victor smiled. You're brave, Cross. I'll give you that. But bravery is nothing without power. He nodded toward his men. And I have all the power here. Jaden exhaled calmly. You think so? Victor leaned forward. I know so. The first man lunged, and Jaden did absolutely nothing. He let the man grab him, let the second twist his arm, let the third slam him into the table. Victor laughed softly. See? You ghosts can die too. But then Jaden smirked, and Victor froze, because the sound of boots thundered outside the door. Locked, blocked, prevented, by someone. Then came the unmistakable alarm. Code red. Code red. East Wing lockdown. Victor's face snapped toward the door. What the? Jaden leaned close despite being held down. You're not the only one with power. The man holding Jaden hesitated. Confusion spread like cracks in ice. Victor's eyes narrowed. What did you do? Jaden smiled faintly, a smile Victor would learn to fear. Your protection is gone. Victor's jaw clenched. His men looked toward him, uncertain. And in that moment of hesitation, Jaden twisted. A clean, surgical movement. Elbow to the throat. Knee to the rib. Shoulder roll into a takedown. 3 men hit the floor in under a second. Victor's eyes widened. You. Jaden stood, calm again. I told you. He stepped toward Victor. You thought this was your prison. He took another step. It's mine now. Victor backed up, the first backward step he'd taken in years. And Jaden whispered the last sentence Victor expected. You're going to die in here, Victor. The only choice you have left is how slow. The alarm still echoed to the halls as Jaden walked out of the private room. The guards sprinted in every direction, shouting orders that no one listened to. Inmates pressed against their cell doors, trying to see the chaos. Jaden blended into confusion, like smoke disappearing into dark air. Behind him, Victor Hale's men scrambled to help their boss to his feet. And Victor finally understood something. He was no longer in control. The lockdown. Red lights strobed across the ceiling. Sirens pulsed. Metal shutters slammed down over hallways. The East Wing was sealed. Warden Briggs stormed down the corridor, barking orders at terrified guards. Who triggered the lockdown? He shouted. No one answered, because no one knew. Only one person in the prison knew the truth. Jaden triggered it, without touching anything. The lockdown was a preset failsafe, one he had already studied, one he activated simply by causing Victor's men to panic and trip a restricted door sensor. He didn't need force. He needed chaos. And chaos was everywhere. Torres returns. In the yard, now flooded with shouting inmates. Torres limped out of the infirmary with a bandage across his ribs and hatred boiling in his eyes. The moment he saw Jaden through the wire fence, everything inside him ignited. There you are. Torres roared. His crew scattered, unsure whether to follow or run. Torres shoved through a group of inmates and pointed straight at Jaden. You think one lucky shot changes anything? Jaden stopped walking, turned, faced him. Torres charged. Fast, angry, heavy, the kind of reckless attack that had crushed countless inmates before. But Jaden wasn't countless inmates. He stepped aside. Not fast, not dramatic, just precise. Torres stumbled past him. Jaden grabbed his wrist, shifted his weight, and Torres collapsed against the fence, gasping. Another man might have kept attacking. Jaden didn't. He leaned close and whispered, "You're in the wrong war." Torres snarled, "You ain't scaring me." "You should be," Jaden said calmly. Torres struggled to stand. "You think you can kill Victor? He owns his place." Jaden's voice didn't rise. "He owned it." Torres stopped breathing for half a second. "What do you mean, owned?" "You'll find out soon." Jaden stepped back and turned away. Torres just stared after him, chest heaving, completely thrown off. For the first time, he didn't feel like the biggest monster in the yard. For the first time, he felt like prey. Victor's counter-move. In the sealed visitor hallway, Victor wiped blood from his lip, fury simmering behind his eyes. "He knows who I am," Victor growled. "He knows everything." His right-hand man, Grady, nodded. "Boss, we should move you somewhere secure." "No!" Victor's voice cut like a blade. "We find him. We kill him. Today. But the lockdown." "Then end the lockdown." Grady hesitated. "Warden Briggs." Victor seized him by the collar. "Briggs works for me. Go!" His men sprinted out. Victor sat back down, breathing hard, shaking for the first time in years. The ghost he thought died long ago was standing in his prison, coming for him. Victor exhaled slowly. This was supposed to be safe. It wasn't. Not anymore. Warden Briggs loses control. Briggs stormed into the control room. "Restore order. Open the shutters. Who the hell locked down my prison?" A trembling guard pointed at the monitors. "Sir, it wasn't us. The system, it thinks someone tried to escape." "No one tried to escape," Briggs snapped. "Actually," another guard whispered, "it says 3 restricted doors were tampered with." Briggs froze, because only one group knew the codes to those restricted doors. Victor Hale's inner circle. Briggs slammed a fist onto the desk. Hale's men triggered it. Idiots. But then another screen caught his attention. A silhouette in the hallway. Calm, silent, moving with purpose. Jaden Cross. Briggs swore under his breath. "Damn it, the ghost is real." The warning. In the recreation room, inmates gathered by the barred windows, watching guards scramble like ants. Some were amused, some terrified, some smelled opportunity. Jaden walked through them like a shadow with a heartbeat. Mac spotted him and hurried over. "What did you do?" Mac whispered, "This place is about to explode." Jaden didn't slow. "Good. Good." Mac grabbed his arm. "You need chaos for Victor, but chaos kills everyone else too." Jaden paused. Just a second. Enough to meet Mac's eyes. "Stay away from Block C," Jaden said softly. "Why?" "Because Victor will go there, and he won't be alone." Mac swallowed. "You planning on meeting him there?" "Yes." And then Jaden's voice lowered to a cold whisper. "I finished what he started when he killed my sister." Mac stepped back. "You can't take on Victor's men alone." Jaden looked at him. Dead calm. Dead focused. Deadly. "I'm not alone." Mac frowned in confusion, but then realized the guards were busy. The warden was panicking. The inmates were watching. Victor's men were scattering. The entire prison was unknowingly protecting Jaden. Jaden walked toward Block C. Mac whispered after him, "God help Victor Hale." The prison's shifting power. As Jaden moved deeper into the building, inmates stepped aside without understanding why. Something about him didn't feel like an inmate anymore. He felt like a force, a storm, a reckoning. Even Torres, clutching his ribs, watched Jaden go with a mixture of rage and awe. Inside the far hallway, Victor's men were gathering, weapons hidden, eyes sharp, ready to ambush. They expected fear. They expected panic. They expected an inmate running from death. What they didn't expect was a man walking toward it, deliberately, ready, silent. The stage is set. Torres, breathing through pain, whispered to a nearby inmate. "Who is he?" The inmate swallowed. "I don't know, but he ain't human." Torres watched the corridor where Jaden disappeared. For the first time in his life, he prayed he'd never see Jaden Cross angry. Blocked. See, wasn't just another wing of the prison. It was Victor Hale's territory. His men slept here. His deals were made here. His guard were paid here. Anyone who stepped inside without permission usually left in a stretcher, if they left at all. Tonight, under flashing red lockdown lights, Block C looked different, darker, tighter, hungrier, like the prison itself was holding its breath. Jaden walked down the narrow hallway, every echo of his footsteps swallowed by concrete. He wasn't rushing. He wasn't hiding. He was approaching, as if this was exactly where he belonged. Because it was. The ambush begins. A soft click echoed from ahead. The first door on the left cracked open, just an inch. Then a whisper. He's here. Jaden kept walking. Another door opened. A shadow slipped out. Then another, and another. 6 men in total. Victor's inner circle. Thick necks. Cold eyes. Improvised weapons. Shanks sharpened from toothbrush handles. Locks tied in socks. Metal rods smuggled from maintenance. Predators. But they weren't approaching prey. They were approaching a man who trained for years to kill men just like them. The first thug stepped forward. "Boss wants your head on the floor," he said. Jaden stopped moving. "Then tell him," Jaden replied softly, "to come take it himself." The man lunged. The ghost moves. To the untrained eye, Jaden's movement looked like a blur. To the trained eye, it looked like perfection. He sidestepped, grabbed the attacker's wrist, pulled, twisted, snapped. The man screamed as his arm broke, cleanly at the elbow. Before the scream even finished, Jaden spun him sideways, using the man's collapsing body like a shield. A second attacker stabbed forward with a shank. The blade sank into the first man's ribs instead. Blood sprayed. Jaden shifted again, fast, precise, graceful in a horrifying way. He drove his palm into the second man's throat, not enough to kill, but enough to silence him and drop him gasping to the floor. 3 more charged at once. Good. Jaden liked it when they grouped. He grabbed the throat of the middle one, yanked him forward, and slammed his head into the metal bars so hard the sound echoed like a gunshot. The other 2 hesitated. That was their fatal mistake. Jaden pivoted low, sweeping the legs of the first, then drove an elbow into the kneecap of the second. Crack! The man dropped screaming. Within 15 seconds, 5 men were on the floor, bleeding, broken, coughing, groaning. Jaden didn't look at any of them. He just kept walking toward the final door. The last guardian. A tall, silent figure blocked the entrance to Victor's private cell. A mountain of a man. Shaved head, a scar from temple to jaw, muscles thick enough to snap a man in half. He held a piece of steel pipe, like it weighed nothing. Jaden sized him up. This one wasn't like the others. His stance, his breathing, the way he held the weapon. This man was trained. Jaden exhaled softly. "Move," he said. The man spoke for the first time. "No, Victor doesn't deserve your loyalty. He pays me more than loyalty," the man replied. "He pays me in survival." Jaden tilted his head. "He didn't pay my sister anything." The giant's jaw tightened. Then he swung. The pipe sliced through the air with enough force to split bone. Jaden ducked, barely. Wind from the swing brushed the top of his hair. He rose. The pipe came again. He leaned. A punch followed. He dodged. A knee shot upward. Blocked. The man fought like a tank, slow but unstoppable. Jaden couldn't block every attack, couldn't parry forever. He waited, studied, listened. Every fighter has a rhythm, even the best. And then he heard it, a slight exhale before each swing, a tiny shift of weight, a fraction of a second delay on the follow-through. Jaden struck, fast. He stepped in, placed his hand on the man's arm, and twisted sharply. The giant grunted, losing balance. Jaden slid behind him, wrapped an arm around his neck, latched on tight. A chokehold, not to kill, but to put him out. The man slammed Jaden into the wall repeatedly, trying to shake him off. Jaden held. 10 seconds. 15. 20. The giant finally collapsed to one knee, then to the floor. Unconscious, breathing, alive. Jaden stood over him. Quietly. I'm not here for you. He stepped over the unconscious guard and reached the final door. Victor's fear becomes real. Inside, Victor Hale stood by his bunk, a metal shard clenched in his trembling hand. His eyes widened at the sight of Jaden walking through the door. Calm, unbloodied, unstopped. You killed them? Victor whispered. No. Jaden closed the door behind him. They'll live. Victor swallowed hard. Then why are you here? Jaden's gaze didn't waver. You know why. Victor backed up until his spine hit the wall. His voice dropped to a desperate whisper. You can't kill me. I have connections. Outside. Inside. They'll come for you. You'll die. Jaden stepped closer. I already died, he said quietly, when you took my sister. Victor trembled. His hands shook violently. Please. Jaden stopped just inches from him. Your pleas won't bring her back. His voice softened. But something else might bring justice. Victor flinched. What? Jaden placed a single folded paper on Victor's bed. It was the same note Victor had sent earlier, but Jaden had written something underneath. I know you, and you're going to confess. Victor's face twisted. What do you think I'm going to do? Confess and march out to guards. Jaden leaned closer, voice so low Victor felt the vibration more than he heard the words. You're going to confess because you're more afraid of living with me in this prison than dying outside it. Victor's jaw quivered. Jaden stood up straight. The next move is yours, Victor. And then he opened the door, walked past the broken men on the floor, and vanished into the shut-down prison like a phantom. The lockdown finally lifted 2 hours later. Metal shutters rolled up. Sirens quieted. Lights steadied. But the silence that followed, it wasn't peace. It was fear. Fear that came from Victor's men crawling out of Block C. Limping, bruised, broken, muttering the same thing again and again. He walked through us. He didn't even breathe hard. He's not human. By the time the sun dipped behind the concrete walls, every inmate in Blackridge knew one truth. The ghost was real. And he was here. Victor's rage. Inside his cell, Victor Hale paced like a trapped animal. His hair was a mess. His hands shook. His mask of calm was gone. For years, Victor ruled through fear. But now he was afraid. His men tried to help. Boss, we'll take him. No. Victor spat. You won't. Because you tried already, and look at you. He gestured to their bruises, cuts, and swollen faces. You 5 couldn't stop one man. Grady, clutching cracked ribs, stammered. He fights like a ghost. I know that. Victor roared. Silence. Breathing hard, Victor steadied himself and lowered his voice. We need leverage. Something he won't sacrifice. Grady swallowed. Boss! He has no family left. Victor paused. Then his expression slowly changed. Oh, but he does, he whispered. Torres crossroads. Torres sat alone on his bunk, ribs taped, jaw bruised, pride shattered. His crew hovered outside the cell. Boss, Rico whispered. You want us to jump him? We can get 6, maybe 8 guys. No, Torres said quietly. They looked at each other, confused. Boss! Torres stared at the floor. That man, he ain't normal. Boss, you scared? Torres didn't answer, because the truth was terrifying. Yes, he was scared, but fear does strange things to a man. Sometimes it breaks him. Sometimes it forges him. And Torres realized something he'd never admit out loud. Jaden Cross wasn't his enemy. He was the only man strong enough to stand up to Victor. Torres clenched his fists. He wasn't about to help Jaden. He wasn't stupid, but he didn't want to die either. So he made a choice. Not loyalty, not friendship, survival. He'd stay out of Jaden's way, and pray Jaden stayed out of his. The guard who made a mistake. Officer Kellen walked down the hall with shaking hands. He had just come from Victor Hale's cell, and Victor had given him something. A photograph, a sheet of paper, and an order. Bring him to me, or I bury you with him. Kellen stopped outside Jaden's cell. The door was open. Jaden sat on the lower bunk, elbows on his knees, staring at the concrete floor. Kellen's throat tightened. This was the moment. He opened his mouth. "I need you to come with me." Jaden didn't look up, didn't move. He simply said, "No." Kellen froze. "W what?" "No," Jaden repeated. "You don't want to bring me to Victor." Kellen's hand shook. You don't understand. He'll kill me." Jaden's head lifted slowly. "You're already dead." Kellen's breath caught. Jaden stood, walked close, too close, and looked him in the eyes. "What did he promise you?" Kellen swallowed. He said he'd clear my debt, that he'd make sure my family. Jaden cut in softly. He threatened them. Kellen's eyes widened. "How do you know?" "Because I know him," Jaden said. "I know his game." He stepped even closer. "And I know the only way you survive tonight is to walk away. Right now." Kellen trembled. "But he told me to bring you to the laundry room." Jaden finished the sentence. "Where his men will be waiting." Kellen's jaw dropped. How do you—" "I told you," Jaden said quietly. "I know him." Then he stepped back. "Go home. Take the long route. Call in sick tomorrow. And if Victor threatens your family again—" Jaden's eyes hardened into steel. "I'll deal with him." Kellen backed away like Jaden was radioactive. He didn't need to be told twice. He ran. The key piece of leverage. In Victor's cell, the crime boss waited, pacing, plotting, grinding his teeth. He looked at the object on his bed, a small, folded photograph, the one he gave Officer Kellen to bait Jaden, a photograph from years ago, one he kept because it amused him, one he now used because it terrified him. It was a picture of Jaden's sister, smiling, unaware she was being followed. Behind the picture was a second paper, a printout, showing a location. A girl still alive. One of the victims Victor hadn't killed. A girl Jaden didn't know about. A girl Victor kept hidden to use as leverage if Jaden ever resurfaced. And now, perfect timing. Victor smirked. If the ghosts want a war, we'll see how he fights when he learns he failed to save someone. His men stiffened. "You're going after her?" "No," Victor said coldly. "He is." He held up the photo. "Bring this to him." "But boss—" "Do it." The delivered message. A quiet inmate named Lyle, Victor's runner, walked down the hall clutching the photo with trembling fingers. He stopped outside Jaden's cell. Jaden looked up slowly. Lyle swallowed. "H. Hale told me to give you this." He handed the photo over. Jaden studied it. His eyes didn't widen, didn't flare, but his breathing changed. Barely, almost invisible, but it changed. A shift from calm to something darker, something colder, something lethal. Lyle whispered. "H," he said, "if you're the ghost, you'll understand what it means." Jaden didn't answer. He folded the picture carefully, like it was precious, like it was a promise. Lyle backed away as if standing too close might get him killed. Jaden stared at the floor for a long moment. He hadn't known another victim survived. He hadn't known Victor kept her as leverage. He hadn't known his mission was bigger than revenge. Now he knew. And now Victor Hale had just made his final mistake. The declaration. Jaden stood, every movement slow, controlled, deadly. Mac approached cautiously. "What's wrong? What did he send you?" Jaden's voice was steady. "He thinks he has leverage." Mac frowned. "Does he?" Jaden looked up. His eyes were cold enough to freeze the world. "He had leverage," Jaden whispered. "Not anymore." Mac shivered. "So what are you going to do?" Jaden turned toward Block C, toward Victor, toward the man who thought he could break the ghost. "I'm going to finish it." Mac whispered. "Tonight?" Jaden's jaw tightened. "Tonight." And as he walked away, every inmate he passed stepped aside instinctively, because Jaden Cross wasn't just a killer. Tonight, he was death walking. Night fell over Blackridge Penitentiary like a heavy lid sealing a boiling pot. The air felt thick, expectant, alive with fear, so sharp it cut through concrete. Every inmate sensed it. Every guard felt it. Something was coming. Something deadly. And it had Jaden's footsteps. The final walk. Jaden moved through the dim hallway with a calm, surgical focus. He didn't rush. Didn't hide. Didn't stalk. He walked like a man who had accepted one truth. Tonight, he either kills Victor Hale or dies trying. He turned the corner toward Block C, Victor's stronghold. But something unexpected happened. A huge figure stepped out of the shadows and blocked his path. Torres. Jaden stopped. Torres' face was bruised, ribs taped, eyes tired, but he wasn't angry. Not anymore. He looked at Jaden with something closer to respect, or maybe survival. "Hey," Torres muttered, "before you go do whatever crazy sh*T you're about to do." He hesitated, then added quietly, "Don't die." Jaden blinked. He hadn't expected that. Torres swallowed hard. "That guy Victor, he ain't like me. I fight with fists. He fights with everything else." Jaden didn't respond. Torres stepped back. "I ain't helping you, man, but I ain't stopping you either." He paused, voice dropping. "And if you come out alive, we're even." Jaden nodded once. Nothing more. He walked past Torres and into the darkness of Block C. Torres exhaled shakily. "God help that Hale bastard," he muttered. Victor's last stand. Victor Hale sat in his private cell, surrounded by 6 armed inmates, his elite force. Each carried makeshift weapons. Each was trembling, not from the cold, from the man approaching them. "Listen carefully," Victor said, voice cracking. "He's just one man. One. You outnumber him. You overpower him. You kill him." No one moved. No one answered. Victor's eye twitched. "Do you hear me?" Still silence. Finally, Grady whispered, "Boss, he took down 8 of us earlier without breaking a sweat." Victor slammed his fist on the table. "He's flesh and blood." Grady swallowed. "So were we." The first shadow. A faint sound echoed in the hallway. A footstep. Then another. Slow. Measured. Heavy enough to be purposeful. Soft enough to be lethal. Victor's blood ran cold. "He's coming," he whispered. The lights flickered. Darkness swept the hallway. Someone behind Victor gasped. The flicker stilled. A silhouette appeared at the end of the corridor. Jaden. Calm. Focused. Death walking with a heartbeat. "Go!" Victor hissed. His men charged forward. Jaden didn't retreat. He advanced. The ghost's wrath. The fight was brutal. Fast. Loud. Silent. A blur of motion. 2 men swung metal pipes. Jaden ducked, grabbed one pipe, and slammed it into the first attacker's knee. Crunch. He spun and uppercut the second man. The man dropped instantly. A third lunge with sharpened screwdriver. Jaden knocked his wrist aside and smashed the man's head into the wall. A fourth grabbed him from behind. Jaden kicked backward, broke the grip, and flipped him over his shoulder. 5 men fell in seconds. The last, Grady, backed away trembling. "Please, I'm just following orders." Jaden spoke quietly, then stopped following monsters. He didn't hit Grady, didn't touch him, just walked past, leaving the man frozen. The final door. Victor Hale stood in his cell, alone, holding the metal shard like it was a holy relic that could save him. "Why, you can't kill me," Victor stammered. "I'm worth more alive. I can give you anything. Money, contacts, freedom, whatever you want." Jaden stepped inside, closed the door, locked it from the inside. Victor's voice broke. "Please." "You kept her alive," Jaden said quietly. Victor blinked. Jaden held up the photograph. "You kept one of your victims alive. You hid her. You used her as leverage." Victor's lips trembled. I was going to let her go." "No," Jaden whispered. "You were going to use her to save yourself." Victor backed against the wall. "What are you going to do?" Jaden stepped closer. "I'm going to let you speak." Victor froze. "What?" "You're going to confess," Jaden said, "to everything." Victor shook violently. "And if I don't?" Jaden looked at him with utterly empty eyes. Then I return the pain you gave them. Victor's breath hitched. A long moment of silence passed. Then Victor collapsed to his knees and sobbed. I'll confess, he cried. I'll tell them everything. Just, please, don't hurt me. Jaden watched him, expressionless, then nodded. Good. He turned away, opened the door, walked out, left Victor Hale crying on the floor. Because Jaden wasn't there to kill him. He was there to destroy him. The morning after, in the warden's office, chaos erupted. Victor Hale sat in front of Briggs, shaking, pale, broken, and confessing to everything. Human trafficking, corruption, murder, names, dates, locations. Briggs scribbled frantically. Guards stared in disbelief. Inmates whispered. Jaden sat in the corner, silent, watching. He didn't smile, didn't react. He simply waited. When Victor finished sobbing out his crimes, he whispered, Am I safe now? Jaden stood, walked past him, stopped at the door, and said, You're safe from me. Victor exhaled in relief. Then Jaden added, But no one else. Victor's eyes widened with horror. Jaden walked out of the room. The ending, real justice. 2 days later, federal agents arrived. Victor Hale was taken away under heavy escort, not to freedom, but to face a lifetime of judgment. During the transfer, inmates lined the hallway, silent, watching Victor pass. Not one of them respected him anymore. Not one feared him. He was just another criminal stripped of power. Torres stood near the back. When he saw Jaden, he gave a tiny nod. Not thanks. Not apology. Recognition. We're even, he muttered. Jaden nodded once and kept walking. Mac approached him. You could have killed him, Mac said quietly. I know. Why didn't you? Jaden looked up at the sky through the barred window. Because death is mercy, he said. And Victor doesn't deserve mercy. Mac exhaled, nodding slowly. So what now? Jaden stepped back inside his cell. For now, I wait. For what? Jaden's eyes were calm again. Peace. Then he sat on his bunk, hands folded, eyes closed. Not a ghost. Not a monster. Not a killer. Just a man finally finished with vengeance.